the late great comedian George Carlin was on an episode of Bill Maher's old show, Politically Incorrect, where he talked about how there used to be seven oil companies, now there are three, and pretty soon there'll be two. And then he says everything that's important to the country in terms of choice is being reduced. However, what is going up is essentially things like your choice of 32 flavors of ice cream, you know? And so his idea was that you're getting the illusion of choice in areas that continually keep us moving forward and feeling like we have this sense of agency. But in other areas, we don't even realize necessarily that our choices are being reduced. And in some ways, I think you point this out really quite well in the book. The more different platforms and different ways into the fabric of the culture that Amazon kind of integrates itself into, the more, in a sense, we are reducing a choice. Now, we often don't think of it that way, but it kind of is. Even just an example of I didn't realize that Amazon had bought Twitch. I didn't know that. But Twitch, of course, is a wonderful platform for people who like to stream gaming, to show themselves playing video games, and it produces quite a lot of money. And if you want to, you can try to stream on YouTube, but most of the serious gamers still stay on Twitch. And so again, even just the decision to not mess with the name Twitch and say, you know what, that name sells by itself, we can still reap the rewards. In some sense, that's still a reduction of choice. You still have to come through Amazon for that.
Yeah, and I think it's there's different ways of thinking about this, so we could try and imagine a different situation in which there were, say, three or four smaller e-commerce companies that you could check out each one. And how that would come about, I'm not sure. I mean, I think Amazon has such a hold on e-commerce, so maybe that would only come about by a kind of breaking up, that government would require, which is quite hard to imagine, actually. But you could also say that there's something that perhaps something like e-commerce, where what makes it you know work best is if there is a massive distribution network, which we know that Amazon has, right? This network of distribution centers, and now they moved into last mile delivery about 5 years ago, as opposed to contracting as much with other companies. And so maybe there's a way in which e-commerce lends itself to a kind of natural monopoly. But in that case, maybe we should rethink any company that starts to control, say, like 40, 50, maybe close to 60% of e-commerce, as people estimate that Amazon does, and say, wow, this has become almost like a utility, and we actually treat utilities different than just regular private companies. So we could ask questions like, should a company like Amazon be in the business of being the place where you find stuff, you buy it, and it gets delivered to you, right? Be in the business of distribution, and also be a major seller and be competing with its own clients on that same platform. I mean, I think that's a really valid question to ask, because again, it can use the business intelligence and its own brand recognition to advantage its own products, when it's supposed to be a platform, and one of the major ways that people find out what stuff can I get, or how can I get my products in front of shoppers. So yeah, I think there's a way in which we've seen with the digital economy that there are advantages to the kind of network effects, economies of scale, right? As you say, like Twitch is a place where creators and viewers who share a certain set of interests and enjoy this live streaming format can gather, right? And then they can find other content, have it recommended to them, and build communities there. So there's something advantageous to that. Otherwise, people wouldn't have all flocked there. So I guess it's finding that line where it flips from it being advantageous to have Twitch being a space for gaming and live streaming that is held in common, or it's advantageous for Twitter to be like a public square. And when it flips into something that has gone from having some kind of advantageous market power to having outsized political power, or starting to use that power in ways that are systematically disadvantaging those who are supposed to be benefiting from that space and preventing others from having any realistic chance of offering an alternative.